Okay. See if everything's going. Hopefully people can see me here pretty soon. Okay, seems to be working there. Okay, gotta let some people come in before I get started. Hey Andre, appreciate it, man. Thanks for jumping in. So I will definitely try. Let's see if Twitch is started. Doesn't look to be. Looks to be going on YouTube though. And looks like Facebook hopefully is coming in. Maybe load the Pixelogic side of Twitch. Okay, that looks good. Gonna watch a commercial. So, okay, I'll let some more people pop in. So, before we get started, and yay! There we go with the ZBrush stuff kind of coming in as well. So, Jax, lay down. So, welcome. Hey, Alex. Hey, Jason. How's it going? Hey, George, how's it going, buddy? Great to see. I didn't get a chance to talk to you today. I'm slightly getting over some cold, everyone, so hopefully I can keep talking for a little bit. How's it going, Wayne? Sweet face is working. Facebook, appreciate it. It's been a little bit since I've done an episode, so welcome back. Sorry, I had like a little break and stuff, and I've been kind of concentrating on a few things that I'll just show you guys since we're kind of waiting. I've been doing a lot of the heads that I've been demoing for episodes for the Pixelogic. I've been taking these heads, printing them out on the form too, and kind of giving myself some things to do. So some of you guys might recognize some of the heads that I've done in previous episodes. This is the Petraling guy. Pretty much pushing a lot of the details that I had within the ZBrush file, kind of pushing them a little bit further than normal. So, how's it going, Meduno? Welcome from Italy. And yeah, and those of you guys need to check out George's work. It's phenomenal. Good guy, great talent. Can't pronounce his last name for the life of me, but awesome guy. So this is the fish guy. And then I've been taking, kind of learning the process of taking those heads and making casts and prints. So this is that one fish guy that I did for the ZBrushLIVE. And I'm going to be having these up for my website here pretty soon for sale. So just give you an idea. So this is what I've been kind of doing in the meantime, trying to take some of the things I've just kind of created and for the streams for fun and such. So in case you guys are first joining me, my name is Brett Briley. You can find my work at www.bbriley.com. I'm going to go through my spiel. Also on within this site, I will have things in my shop, and this is where you can get some of the kits. Items, t-shirts, so on, stickers. You can also find me on ArtStation at /Spark. I need to kind of keep updating, but this is just a generalization of a lot of my different work from games and such. And then my Instagram is where I've been kind of doing a lot more of showcasing some of the different things within the printing process to kind of help to go from digital to 3D to the final what I was just holding in my hand kind of stuff. It's a big jump. There's a lot to learn, but I'm happy to help if I can. So you can find that at instagram.com/bbrileyart. I also am part of a great group called Grimm, together with James Kane and Martin Verhoeven. We are Grimm. We have a combined, our talents from digital and doing the whole process into final print. And you can find us at www.wearegrim.com, and you can find out about us and our work and so on. We also have a Instagram as well, in case you guys are wondering. So Andre is asking about, a friend of yours recommends reading and watching about classical sculpting in order to prove digital. Will this help since they use different tools and methods? Traditional work, always. It's just understanding human anatomy or basic in life and everything. That just will help translate anything into the digital. So I always suggest drawing from life, working on sculptures if you want to. I mean, traditional sculptures are definitely difficult. It's a different talent. Meaning you just have a lot of techniques and stuff to learn from the digital, but all that will come into it. So I used to draw from realistic life and everything, and all that anatomy into my creatures and stuff kind of come into it's kind of in my head, or I can understand anatomy a little bit better, which helps me create. So let me go ahead and get to today. I think everything is going pretty well. I'm going to pick it back up to where I was doing before that last couple episodes, where I was taking a creation from start to finish. I'm going to go back to scanned heads, but I'm going to bring in a couple different things that I think will kind of help, which are called vector displacement maps, or VDM maps. I've shown a lot of this stuff where you can actually create creatures from bringing in just the regular spheres, like if I want to go, append a sphere and using that sphere or other items to kind of create an intermix with your creation. So I'm going to show that through VDM maps. And I created a brush, whereas I was taking some of my previous monsters, mouths, ears, that kind of stuff, and allowing me to quickly grab this brush and painting out a mouth, painting out ears, nose, to allow you to kind of intermix and create things pretty quickly using previous items and stuff that you've had. I'm sure some of you guys have heard about this stuff. This is, in a way, sort of doing what I was creating before, having different pieces and just kind of taking those elements and kit bashing them together. VDM maps pretty much draw from the topology. As you can see right there, the topology goes over depending what it has, and you're allowed to create. It has limitations, so be aware, and this is some of the stuff that I'm going to go over today. I'm going to show you how to kind of go ahead and quickly create that. So to do a VDM map, just go ahead and grab a general plane. That plane is going to come in. You have to make sure it's a polymesh 3D. You'll see a polycolor kind of hit to it. You want to make sure that that is on its pivot of 0, 0, 0 within ZBrush. And quickly to check that, you can actually just go ahead and turn on the floor grid, and you'll actually see that's where it's going to be. It comes at a little bit higher, about 1,000 polys. We're going to go ahead and bring down the different levels. And what the VDM works, it's based on all this information, the different levels, and that's why there's limitations. You can't do like bring in like a sculptress, or you can't dynamesh it and then create the form. So you got to be very aware of that. So I'm just going to go to geometry, and I'm just going to reconstruct it back down, come back up, and so I'm just going to add a couple levels. Trying to keep these relatively low, not too high. I mean, I could probably go up to 1,000,000. That's fine. And if you start to have like these little round areas, round corners, that's fine. It shouldn't cause any kind of issues. But if you don't want those, just turn off the smoothing within the divide. Okay, and that will have that division. So division of 8 is fine. Once you have that all set up, it's just going to be a regular plane that you're just sculpting on. So if I want to sit there and just create, I'm going to go down a few levels, and if I sit there and I want to just kind of create like a little, I'm going to create like a weird bubble sore or whatever, okay? And another thing I would probably suggest is, if you notice, if any of this kind of comes off the grid, it kind of causes issues. So I would probably suggest going down to a low level, and masking out just the corners to make sure that these stay within the grid so you don't kind of get off of the issue. And then just go ahead and just go to polygroups and just create from mask, so you separate those two areas. So then that way you can kind of hide by holding down Control and Shift, and then just clicking on that polygroup to hide it out. So let's see, GUI, hence Pro. No, actually, Andre, I keep everything to basic UI. So whatever you open up ZBrush is going to be exactly what you'll see on my screen as what you'll see on your screen. I find this way, since I teach a lot, I try to sit there and make it easy for everyone coming in that's new to understand it very quickly. Because if I have all different windows popping about, you're like, how did I get that? And then you have to kind of seek it out and find it. And it becomes very difficult for everybody. So I tried to kind of keep that easy. So, hey Breach Egg, how's it going, man? Yeah, happy Friday. So, and again, I apologize if I sound slightly out of it. Allergies, Texas is really large, so you'd think there wouldn't be a lot of pollen around you, but it still could find you. So once I have that all done, I'm just going to kind of go back up, and I'm not going to create anything really pretty. I'm just going to kind of just show you guys the process. So let's say if I just wanted to make this some kind of weird sore or you know, some kind of weird object. You can think like a great idea is like octopus tentacles, you know what I mean? Like if I'm going to have something that's just going to kind of, I need to rinse and repeat that same thing over and over again. This is where VDM brushes really come in, because it's quick and you can drag and it pulls it right into the form. So I'm just going to kind of create some weird little octopus tentacle kind of thing. Not necessarily exactly. It's an alien. Again, we're just making up. I'm just having some fun. That's what I want you guys to kind of always do when you get into ZBrush. It's a very fun program, and you're just trying to find shapes, forms. So I'm just going to kind of just create some weird bubbles. I'm going to go up to, I'm only about 200,000, not too much. You can go up to probably, if I divide this again, it's going to go up to 1 million. That's fine if you want to kind of do that, but what happens is when you have so many, it starts to bog down. And what this has done is kind of drawn out from the depth as well. So I'm going to kind of take this and I'm going to exaggerate some of these pits and valleys. And this is what separates a VDM map from an alpha. Alphas are going to be very limited in the depth, the Z depth, whereas the VDM maps will actually be able to do underhangs and everything like that. So if I actually took this and I wanted to kind of bury underneath and create like a little pit of detail underneath this sucker section, you know, and it wraps in and however, that little, on an alpha, we would lose that entirely. It wouldn't be able to show because that little underhang would go away, because it only takes the front-facing information, whereas vector displacement maps will take the surrounding and underneath and, you know, pretty much all the information. So now that I have this, if you go down to deformation, which is right here, the morph to grid, in case there was any kind of information that's off the grid, it's going to kind of screw up. So I just want to go ahead and unhide this. I'm going to go ahead and just morph to grid, make sure I'm fine. Okay, now because that was not masked, even though it was hidden, it was. So if I want to sit there and just make sure that all these to the corners, I need to mask that, and then I'm just going to morph to grid and okay, it seemed to has gotten off the grid. So let's double check. It shouldn't. Okay, somewhere along, because I screwed that up. Let's see if I can back it up. Let's go down to lower levels. It's happened a couple times, and this is where you got to double check the. Okay. Plain 3D grid. Okay, it should. Let's try this anyway. I'm going to go back up. Somewhere along the line, I might have accidentally messed with this, the initial plane grid 3D. So I'm going to see if this can work still. And I've had this problem a few times. Just some things come up, you just kind of rinse and repeat and try to do it. So I'm going to go to the layer brush, and we're just going to test this out to see if it still works in the VDM. If it doesn't work, what happens? I can still create an alpha, but I won't be able to get the VDM information of this under cavern little area underneath that. So I'm going to go to layer, grab a layer brush. You could also do the what is it? Chisel 3D brush. You can always do that if you're going to be doing more. I'm going to go ahead and make a clone just so I kind of keep this, and I'm going to say from mesh here in a second after I do a drag. I'm just going to say from mesh, and so that should grab all that information underneath that. To test this out to see if this works, I'm going to go ahead and go to my let's just go ahead and just grab a Z-sphere, make a poly mesh, and divide it. And when I drag this out, at the moment you can see right there, I've lost some of these corners. So this is where it was saying that it couldn't test it. And I'm also seeing the little level. So if I go up to my Z intensity, I should be able to drag that out. And this is where I was having problems where it was not acting properly. And I'm getting kind of like a weird push and pull. So sometimes you have to test this out and see. And that's where it lost that information. So let's try this again real quickly. I'm going to go back to here. I'm just going to create another plane. And you want to make sure dynamic is off. I'm not really worried about going ahead about the divisions down. I'm just going to kind of keep this, and it looks like it's kind of giving me some issues. See if it catches up. Okay, let's go back to alright, let's divide it up. Well, first of all, I forgot one big thing. Sorry guys, I'm not on the ball. I'm kind of not feeling great, so please forgive me. Make it a polymesh 3D. Go ahead and turn off smooth, and let's just I'm hitting Control D. Let's just go there. And I'm gonna do this really quickly. Just inflate, just to show. However you want to do it. I'm just gonna call this done. It's pretty. Not as good as the other one. And I could actually probably go ahead and project that other one that I did previously, but I'm just going to just show you. I'm going to go back to that layer. I'm going to go ahead and make another clone. I'm going to change my stroke to a drag, and I'm going to say, and you can turn this up to 100, it should work, and say from mesh. So I should have that information captured. So I'm going to go into my like a polymesh sphere. 100 should already be on that. And then as you can see right there, when I drag that out, now it matches perfectly, so I don't have any kind of ridge, and you got to be very careful. Somehow I messed up when I was moving stuff around. It just kind of causes some quite issues. So that way you can actually make something very simple, and if I was, so you can actually see the Z depth is in there pretty well. If I went back to this and I decided to dig underneath into this cavern, okay, kind of created like some weird section to where it wouldn't catch that normal. All I have to do is come back into here, go ahead and grab that layer again, and then I just say from mesh, and so now it should, on this one, when I pull out, have that little cavern. So you can see that little hole, so that way you can go in and underneath objects and create a little bit more detail. It's going to break down at some point though. So if you did like a horn that kind of comes up and way over, you're going to run out of polys, and it's going to start to stretch, and it's going to use, because as you can see right here, my poly information is being carried from that. So it kind of, you just got to be aware of it. It has its limitations. It's not the end all. I wish at some point you can change it into a sculptress and make it kind of continuous, and or you can re-dynamesh and do everything else. It needs to have all this. There's certain things, and as you saw, I messed up. So you got to check yourself every once in a while to do the bridge. I mean, to do this little test, see if it's working, so on. So let's go back to this, I'm going to start back up. I actually created my brush as I was showing you. So there's a lot of different things within this brush that I can, like if I make this, I can take this ear and then start. So as you see right there, it's based on those levels. So the higher level I go into this, I'm going to go ahead and break that down. So this way allows me to kind of quickly create, and if I'm drawing from the ear, you know, from here, I can say with my fish mouth. Now the one thing you will have with the VDMs, it starts to kind of snap together and kind of cause some issues. So it's great if you just want to use, I mean, just because I use that as a that's a mouth, you know what I mean? I can then just kind of pull this and start creating, you know, use it as an eyebrow. And this is where I'm seeing that the VDM brushes or things you've created before can start to help you create new monsters based on monsters you've done before. Because I mean, who's to say, you know, I can't start pushing and pulling using those, looking for certain things, or just tossing a whole bunch of these together and then kit bashing pieces to see what you can kind of come up with. So I'm going to go back to my guy. Yeah, fair enough. And it's like if you have issues or things just aren't working, just take a minute to kind of take a look at it and go at it again. It's always when you're showcasing or when you're doing demos, mistakes kind of tend to happen, but everybody kind of goes through it. So this is just that normal guy that I've used in quite a few different episodes. It's just a scan. This is the one that I actually kind of mirrored and dynameshed and ZBrush, so that's where I'm kind of going as well. But I'm going to kind of just use this guy to start as a base, and I'm going to bring in some of those VDM brushes at some point in time. But right now I'm just going to kind of start to kind of create push and pull and just not really worry about, because I'm kind of looking for some of those happy accidents to get. I have an idea of some of what I want to do. I'm going to take out, you know, some of like the ear. I'm not really worried about the ear in this one because I can always pull those back in if I need to. I'm not really worried about my nose because I'm going to make this guy a little bit more alien, and I'm not really going to use too much of this shape except for just a quick base. So if I'm going to do an alien-esque type of character, again, I usually try to wipe out a few of the senses. So like in a human, you have your nose, your eyes, your ears, your tongue, your mouth, whatever. So if you wipe out one of those, then it becomes odd, it becomes alien, it becomes different. So this is where sometimes you just kind of choose, like, what am I going to kind of use for that? So that kind of has a tendency to help you. So now that I'm wiping out those areas, I'm still going to use some. I pushed and pulled this character, and I'm going to kind of look at some of those shapes, and I might kind of make this into a, you know, it's a nose, but I'm like, maybe I just do it as a double nose. I'm not really worried about that X. That kind of happens sometimes, and then I'm going to kind of maybe start to take a look at pushing and pulling some of these forms in, using what I generally had from that character, but I'm going to kind of play with some of the different forms. Maybe I'll push out his chin, but I might flatten it out and kind of give, so it's a chin, but it becomes kind of like different types of flaps, and then I'm going to just start looking for some shapes based on what I actually have within this character, within this face. And then let's go ahead and just pull in some of that VDM brush that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this object, and I'm going to take a look at some of the different items that I can kind of use. So I have, you know, like here's a mouth. I don't necessarily want to kind of probably an ear, but maybe I'm going to go ahead and I'll use this mouth. I want to make sure I'm on a high level, that when I'm doing this, that way I grab all the information for the VDM map. So even if I didn't have this one at 1,000,000 or whatever, I just had it at 200,000, I want to make sure it's whatever my level is higher than that VDM map. So that way when I pull it out, it's going to give me all the information that I kind of want to grab. So I'm going to go back up to the highest one, and let's just kind of push and pull. So I'm going to kind of grab some of this detail. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm going to use every single part of it. I'm just using it to find forms. So maybe this might be kind of like its little spike or antlers or whatever from the side. I'm going to define out the eyes. Let's go back, and I might pull in that eye. Let's see if I use let's just use this little section of eye. I'm going to pull it up in here. Let's again kind of give it like a little. So even though I had that eye already kind of done, doesn't mean I'm going to have to use it at a point in time. I could actually use this this eye section to make you know, like extra like little horn sections or some kind of weird try to find some of those shapes and build it in, and you know, start looking for some forms. And just because I have that all kind of detailed out doesn't mean I definitely have to use everything from that. Maybe these eyes might be a little bit too small. Sorry, my keyboard's like flipping off. So I might have to kind of go back and figure out what I'm looking for. So let's dig in this eye section. I'm just looking for ideas, something that kind of help me create, help me sit there and think of, you know, how this character might kind of look. He might, because right now he's kind of looking deerish, kind of odd. I can actually make it more spiky. If I bring in something with teeth or some sharpness or whatever, that's going to change the way he kind of looks. So I've got to be careful about what he's going to, you know, what's his character, what's his story. You know, you guys can toss out something and I'll be like, okay, let's try that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily always going to work, and that's why you kind of have to be aware that, you know, whatever you are creating doesn't always make sense. Toss it out or use it for something, for another project or another character that kind of might help you. I'm going to go ahead and so is there any kind of questions on the VDM brushes or anything that you guys are thinking about that, I mean, let's go ahead and I'll try to answer what I can while I'm doing this. Yeah, I remember the Prometheus. I watched I kind of had my eyes closed most of it. It's pretty scary. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff from life that you can kind of take a look at. Like if I went through my reference or kind of looked at some, I'm trying to think of like, you know, like if I made these to more solid, I could start bringing in praying mantis with the huge eyes on the corners or a couple other things. It's life is great to look from, and a lot of what you'll see from movies and, you know, other really well-known artists, they're pulling from life. So because nature is pretty damn scary in itself. So as I'm kind of creating, I'm going to echo some of this shape right here, this little turn kind of thing, and you know, so I kind of have it repetitive into the shape itself. I'm going to go back and I'm going to just add some quick eyeballs just to, and you could do that in the VDM too. You can actually just say if you have a whole bunch of different eyes that you want to kind of bring into. The reason I didn't make these like a VDM is that way I can kind of adjust them and pull them in and move them around a lot easier than if they were embedded. So having some things that are going to be kit bashed is going to be a good way to deal with it. So all I did is I just went into Z plugin down to subtool master, open that up, and I just did a quick mirror. Okay, so then you gotta close that to want to use it, and then just make sure your symmetry is on, so that way I can now move these eyes around. I could use inflate to kind of make them kind of weird eye or however I want to deal with it, and then start working the eye around, start working that detail and stuff. Hey Eduardo, how's it going? Yeah, Ashley's got some great streams. Yeah, I mean, with these kind of things, the reason I was saying or showing you guys the VDM maps is that you get happy accidents. If I go through and I mean, you're going to have some unhappy accidents as well too, but we're looking for certain details or forms that, you know, we're just having fun. Not everything's going to be a success. Some things and shapes and directions are going to work pretty well. Some things won't, and that's why I said if it's not working, if I'm not liking this character, I don't want to sit there and finish out this direction, or I'm just not seeing it. Take a moment to start again, you know, or you know, wipe out this little section, you know, because that looks like kind of brain. Wipe it out and then take a look at, okay, well, I like some of the shape that's going in here. It's kind of embedded into the side, and then we can use it to, you know, pull up something on the back. Or let's take a look at let's just use this. You know, to then pull this. Now I am getting some really nastiness pulling from there, but that's fine. I'm going to use it because what it was doing, it was like embedding into those two sections and kind of causing some, you know, you can see those two mouths kind of in it, connecting. But I'm going to use those shapes. I'm going to kind of rework them and just kind of, again, looking for some of those shapes. You know, and I personally just like big heads, kind of weird things here and there. And because I was in a lower level, I lost some of that detail, and I did that on purpose just so I don't have to, I can kind of have some of the silhouette, some of the form of that brush, but not all the high details, because I wanted to take a look at some of the different ways of bringing in that brush, bringing in that silhouette. Okay. So again, I'm kind of coming back, cleaning up some of that rough section of detail, looking for forms. Yeah, Ashley Adams. She does the Pixelogic streams and stuff. A good question, Jason. Do I visualize the full body? No, not at the moment. Personally, how I approach is I'm looking for the head and details within the head to help me pull in different details for the rest of the body. So that previous streams I was doing about that B-alien kind of guy, I was looking for the forms in the heads, and then I pulled everything down into the body and just kind of echoing. So like as I kind of say, if you have a skipping stone, you chuck it on the pond and it just skips across. It carries through the character. So you know, you want to kind of create whatever you like in the head. Then I'm going to, you know, like these little discs or whatever, or eye droplets, or however you want to say some of the detail. If I decided on this guy to bring in you know, horns, right? Or the horns are kind of at a weird section in a pole, or they're super large, or, you know, these little details will then be carried to the back or through the front. So because it's like this, and the problem with some of the VDM brushes that they are going to be based on its normal, so it's pretty difficult to get them going in the direction you want. So like if I wanted this to kind of go off to the side, it's pretty difficult to kind of try to do that because it was based on the direction that it was created. So if I decided, okay, I like this, I'm going to pull this in somehow, this is where I would say I would bring in like the demon horn as a separate object and kind of manipulate and rotate and just kind of have some fun with it. If I wanted to bring in my teeth and kind of go, let's go up to a higher level, and if I had these teeth, you know, I can quickly just move them around and create some, you know, not necessarily they're going to be teeth, but I can then use that to, you know, create it like some kind of weird horn or whatever, and then bring in some of those details. This is just looking for, exploring, you know, going out, testing, and if it works, if it doesn't work, you know. And just because these were teeth doesn't mean I have to continue to keep them to teeth or use them as teeth again. I can just BS and say this is going to be some kind of brain cavity, you know, maybe bring in another kind of sphere, Make sure I grab that. You know, just pull this to the one side, and so this is the eardrum. This is the Jax, get over there. Let's shrink this down again. Scale it up. So I'm using the element to kind of create inflate brush to make this as some kind of weird pustule sac, like, you know, this is where it carries its babies, or, you know, I don't know. I mean, we could just kind of, you're just tossing stuff out, seeing what sticks, and changing the story based on that. You know, who's to say that the brain has to be within a cavity, protected? This could just be because it's alien and I'm making it up as I go. It carries its nuts on its head or whatever. You know, I mean, its anatomy could be whatever you want it to be. So, and yeah, I don't know if I can make this whole thread, guys. Sorry, I'm starting to die out. But this is your story. This is what we're creating using those VDM brushes, using things to just toss and turn. Because I can always clean this up later. I can always go back in here and change, you know, the detail. I can always ZBrush it and knock out, or you know, use this as, this is now more of his eyebrows that I'm going to kind of, because I want to have some flat areas of concentration. I want to sit there and have some areas of rest. So I want to bring the eye down. So I'm going to then treat this as more of the eyebrow, and then lead your eye up into the back. And since I had these as like little fins, I'm just going to kind of carry that design. And that's where, you know, Franco, like I said, whatever I'm doing here, I can actually bring down to lower. I'm going to shrink these eyes down just a little bit more because they were getting kind of imposing. I want them to be hidden because I want everything to kind of focus more towards the top of the head. Now that I have those, I'm going to start taking a look at some of the balance of where I'm going. And some of the face. Okay, let me just go ahead and save sort of my direction that I'm going on this one. Yeah, and Andre, let me see, there's some Sculpt Fast sketches in ZBrush. Yeah, George, I want to check those out for sure. I've been showing George, like I said, he's a fantastic traditional guy. This, and it used to be, honestly, the game guys never talked to the movie guys and traditional guys. It was pretty separate. Each had their own individual industry. ZBrush has really brought those industries together, and it's just, the talent is able to just concentrate on the talent. They're just, you know, you're able to talk. The great thing about ZBrush is that traditional, every single industry has its limitations, or certain things you can do and you can't do. ZBrush, I use it because I can actually just be very additive and subtractive in my designs. I can toss certain things, or I have libraries that I've created that I can pull from that I'm able to sit there and use. If someone, you know, is doing this traditionally, they have to kind of create everything from scratch, or they can, you know, they have to create a mold and go through that whole thing and build back up. But it takes time. This is where I'm able to use ZBrush to kind of quickly get ideas down, use pieces that I've actually had done before, and just repurpose them for entirely different directions. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue with that idea. And these are pretty sharp. Now, also, if I'm going to be doing this for print, I've got to be careful about certain elements that are going to be super sharp, or so if I'm not worried about it, or if I do this for games, then there's going to be certain things that are going to be poly limits. You know, if I have a poly limit, you know, movies are a little bit more open to being able to do whatever you want to do. But right now I'm just kind of sketching. I'm not really thinking, and that helps. Don't get too much in your head, because if you get too much in your head, sometimes nothing can be created because you're just worried about it being the success. If this turns out, great. If it doesn't, okay. The one thing I've learned is that you are never going to create the best piece. You know what I mean? There's always somebody better. but you're always going to find that somebody might just like what you do, even if you never like it. So just go ahead and put it out there. The more stuff you put out there, the more stuff you just enjoy the process and get it done, there's going to be people that will like it. And even if you find there's very few people that like it, that you just keep doing it as long as you enjoy yourself. So, like, I'm not digging this guy. One of you guys might actually go, oh, you know, I would like to buy that, or I like that design, or whatever. But I can use this to learn from. I can say that was successful. I want to try this again, or I learned a different technique, and that makes it worthwhile. So let me go ahead and continue. Now I've used some of this the VDM brushes to kind of give me some shapes and forms in the back. I might take a look again to see what I can actually pull in. Sometimes if you overcomplicate the design gets entirely lost. So you want to have, like I said, areas of rest, and you definitely want to sit there and carry ideas and flow in a certain direction. So here I'm going to pick up this ear from the original character, and I'm just going to carry that ear back just into the shape. And I didn't mean to move. I also have hotkeys that I think everybody should really kind of find the brushes that you like and try to set up hotkeys that you can quickly jump back and forth between them. Because going through here and trying to find the brush, breaking it down, like I know it's a standard brush, T, you know, T, and then I got my standard brush. For me to quickly go from one hotkey to the next is the speed that you're trying to accomplish, and separates you from other artists to get your ideas down on quicker. Less frustration, and you're just sculpting. Because my left hand that you guys can't see is constantly moving. So, any questions, guys? Areas of rest, Vinay means reduced detail. Pretty much, if I have tons of details, you know, on here, everywhere, okay, your eye cannot rest. Your eye cannot relax to find the next form. So because I have detail down into here, I want to sit there and give that area of rest, so then forms can start to pick up and your eye can kind of flow around and do it. Hey, Gregor. How's it going, Greg? Greg Pontench, phenomenal artist, traditional guy as well, worked on some fantastic movies and stuff, and is over at Aaron Sims, I think, right now. Is that where you're at? Used to live in Texas. So thanks for joining, buddy. And I try to point out the different artists that I'm friends with or inspire me, to try to let you guys know, to kind of find them. Because inspiration is always great to find. If I can't inspire you, there's something I don't do, somebody that might inspire me will inspire you. You can just try to seek them out. So it's kind of got to catch them all. It's like Pokemon for artists. You know, try to look up and find those different artists and teachers and things. So that's Vinny. That's what I mean by areas of rest. I mean, it's just like for me to carry this direction up, since this is kind of not a lot of detail, I'm sort of kind of trying to lead the eye up with form and shape to the back of this head dress that will kind of lead your eye around to that little ball sack type brain kind of thing. Yeah, we definitely need to catch up, man. Miss talking with you, buddy. And so that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying not to give busy detail. A lot of stuff I've seen recently is there's just so much tertiary detail over and over and over again that it becomes, I almost get eye headaches because I can't quite see the form. There's a lot of beautiful stuff there, but it's just like your eyes you're just over inundated with tons of information. Good forms, you start with your base, and that's why I kind of bring you guys up through the levels to where you're adding a little bit more details to the secondary levels of form, and then finally to the tertiary details where I'll bring in some skin pores or scratches or the tiny little things that will just add story and character to it. So, sorry, RK, I didn't mean I'm left-handed. I mean my left hand is on the keyboard doing tons of different functions while I draw. So I'm actually right-handed, which is a little bit rare for artists, but And actually, I used to be left-handed, but I had a teacher that used to make me sit on my left hand because I used to draw with this hand and write with this hand, and my papers were a mess. So she made me sit on my hand, and I had her for a couple of years. So I finally had to learn how to draw with my right hand. And it was kind of funny because when I was 4, when I really started to draw, my artwork went down, and it wasn't until I was about 6.5, 7, my artwork came up to the level that I was at 4. So, so I don't know if I would be good if I was left-handed. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm kind of bringing in some like flower, lily pad kind of bone structure kind of stuff. We were talking about Vinay about where was the rest of form. So now I'm starting to concentrate on leading your eye down and bringing in some of the details and folds to concentrate on that little eye section. I'm going to bring in the eyes a little bit more. I might try to bring in some of these shapes to the face. And I'm going to see about, okay, maybe not. Let me take a look at that. So what I'm trying to do is just add some weight to the front because he's just looking a little bit too, not quite digging it. Let me bury that eye back a little bit more. And so I'm going really into my lower forms levels to just play with that little section. I'm going to turn on my dynamic subdivision, by the way, my dynamic perspective, I mean. I'm going to go to my draw. I'm going to change it to 35. I want some perspective in there, but not too much, because I'm now going to start looking at some of my flow and the rest of this design. I'm going to bring in some weight to the bottom of the neck here. Again, because I have some of like this heavy weight to this section, almost kind of like earlobes, I'm going to, again, look for that shape that I like and try to echo it into the body. So if I carried that design into the rest of the creature, like this guy actually might have a couple more of these weighted sacs. Like, think of like your lymph nodes, you know, in the body, like underneath the armpits and the neck. And I might kind of say, okay, this character has like a lymph node problem. He's sick. That's how I feel. So your lymph nodes are a lot bigger. So, yeah, Greg, exactly. It's just like there's just too much detail trying to cover the bad form. It's sort of like students that I see that actually do 16 lights in a scene just to cover crap work. Professionals will see it. So you want to sit there and make sure that your forms are good and you're happy with them before you take into the secondary levels and build up. And I go back and forth a lot. I mean, if something is not working for me, I will erase it, look at it again, play with it, and just sit there and see if I can, if there's something that I like. So right now I'm playing with my silhouettes, my, forms to see if I, how I want to make this character. And you could do on this character, I could, if I'm worried about something, like if I'm worried about losing, because I know a lot of people are kind of afraid to experiment, afraid to try something to see if it works because they don't want to lose what they think might have been more successful. And I get that. I get the fact that you're like, okay, I like this. It's not quite right, but if I go try a whole bunch of different things, I might lose something that was 70%. Successful in my mind. So what you could do is you can create layers, and you sit there and just create a new layer, and that will snapshot that little section, so I can pretty much, you can create layers and try different things out. I could also go ahead and go down to my morph target and just go ahead and store this morph target. So this is, like if I have my morph target and I create like a new layer and I want to test this out of what, I'm going to go just extreme. Let's just, make it wacky. I could actually just, on here, I can just stop recording and I could just use this to push and pull back to see what was working, or I could even blend between those, okay? And you could also do the same thing with the morph target. You can actually use the different morphs to go above and beyond. So don't be afraid of experimenting, because that's part of as an artist what you should do, is to just try different things, to look for different forms. That's why you see a lot of these episodes I just kit bash and I look for shapes. You know, and a lot of times what I even do is I'll go ahead and just make it like a pure black object where, you know, I'm just looking for the silhouette itself and seeing what's successful. It's a little hard to see my gradation background, but that way it gives you a chance to kind of see things. So, God, it looks like it's Snoke. I don't know what Snoke means, but I don't know if that's good or bad. Flip. So that's what I'm kind of looking for right now. If I do want to play with this, if I'm trying to snapshot this in the moment where it's at, you know, so again right there, you see I'm actually going underneath, so that totally changes it to where that is now, you know. And if let's say I wanted to make this a little bit larger based on what I've already done, this is the beauty about ZBrush. I just create a new layer. Okay, I still have this, I can switch back and forth. That's the morph target that's underneath it, but I'm on this new layer. I can then use the layer above to start creating. Now the one thing you have to pay attention, whenever a layer is on and you got a new layer and you're recording, it's going to pick up things from that other layer. So that means if I did a whole bunch of skin details and I want to do a skin layer, a skin layer, a skin layer, and not have them intermix, you got to make sure you turn off the eyeball of the different layers. Otherwise, you're just going to blend those layers together within that recorded layer. It's just taking a snapshot of what you visually see. So just be aware of it. So I'm on a new layer, and I'm just going to kind of go ahead and continue some of my different designs. Yes, yeah, true. The store morph target, as he's saying, whatever layers I have in here, it's going to just snapshot everything. So that's just taken into it. That's why a lot of times I'll actually, before I even start with this, I'll just create a stored morph target that I could always pull back to the original, or make sure I have a duplicate. I'll take this head, usually the base head, and I'll make a duplicate of it before I start on that, in case I want to pull back to that original head. So, okay, I went over VDM brushes. We'll get an alpha. So right now I'm just going to finish out some of that different nose section. I'm just making up. I'm giving him a nose, but I'm giving him quite a few noses. I'm leading with the eye, and I'm just kind of finding some skin folds. And since I got kind of like a little flowery section, I'm going to carry that, going to close down his mouth, make it kind of small, and separate. So right now I'm going into its secondary forms. I'm just trying to find some of those shapes based on my initial shapes that I was creating. If I want to go back into more of its base form, clean up some stuff, or change its silhouette, I go down to my levels and I'll clean up. And then I'll kind of slowly come up on my levels, add in the secondary forms, like if there's any kind of muscle direction or skin pull, and then go to the highest level before I start adding really tiny little skin detail, like if he's going to have crow's feet, or clean up this little tooth piece right here. If I want to add the bury his eye section, or here's part of let's go ahead and bring his tear duct in here, or make this. That's the tiny little details that we will add. The mid levels, this is where I kind of start building and try to keep to that philosophy. Try not to go all the detail all the time. Jump back and forth between every single layer. Try to find what works and what doesn't. So again, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm just kind of trying to find things that appeases to me. So now let's take a look at this guy. I don't know if I want to make him smaller, thicker. So by playing with some of the depth and changing him overall, instead of just moving different parts, I'm just scaling him down into the shapes, because I felt he was a little bit too thick, and I want to kind of bring out some more of these brain sacs into the silhouette, make him a little bit heavier into the weight. And by doing that, I'm going to then make the eyes just a little bit smaller, and let's bury them up in a little closer maybe. So I want to make them buried. I'm trying to make them look a little bit more evil, but not entirely evil. Sort of like if you were just meeting with this guy, you're not quite sure. Maybe is he you know, friendly, not like by me adding teeth. I mean, if I definitely want to make this guy evil, I just add teeth. Anything that has like less of an eye and more teeth, that just instantly feels more dangerous, scary. So I'm going to go down to my levels to bring this in easier too. By going up and down the levels using your move tool, that allows me to also manipulate form a lot quicker. When you go in the higher levels, you're moving millions of polys compared to thousands. So it's like, you know, lifting a couple bricks compared to, you know, a sack. So yeah, there's some right-handed artists for sure. Mickey Mouse. I don't see Mickey Mouse quite yet, or I don't know. I worked for Disney. I don't remember him getting some of that look, but who knows? And this is the thing, it's like everybody's going to see different shapes and forms, because that's the subliminal, that is their experience coming in and what they've seen. So that's part of it. When you guys create something, you're always going to have your subliminal. You're going to have things that inspire, or things that you've seen come into, you know, because if I ask you, you know, certain things and shapes that you think are in here, everyone will have some kind of different consensus of what it's going to be, or what they think. So that's the great thing as an artist. You're bringing your experience and your thoughts into your piece, and everybody's going to kind of take that, unless it's pretty blatant. That's what you're trying to do. But I'm definitely inspired by, right now, I'm thinking flowers, I'm thinking insects, I'm thinking, of course, within the alien. I'm just trying to play off some of this. I'm going to shrink this down. So different sides, like, you're always going to have different perspectives that are going to feel more comfortable to you. Certain shapes, I definitely am not digging the front perspective. I like more of some of the shapes in the quarter and the side profile. I'm kind of appreciating, but I need to kind of help some of those different shapes, and by working on the back, I might have to bring in more of that silhouette to the front, which will help balance the front shape by having this a little bit thicker and adding some of the weight. You see right there, that's breaking down. That is going to start bringing up some interesting shape to the, you know, almost like a different, helps balance and encapsulates my form. So it's the inner and outer silhouette. So hey, Square, going good, man. Thanks for showing up. So that is because right now the front, like I said, I don't know if I need to bring in the eyes closer, or I'm fighting the eyes right now. They're not, I'm not quite feeling them yet. So I'm going to leave them alone for just a second, and I'm going to kind of concentrate on the different forms and see if it helps balance some of those issues that I'm feeling. And that's something I'm sure you guys have heard called overkill. If there's something you just kind of keep banging on and it's just not working, at some point in time it's just going to destroy it. There's no taking it back. So I'm going to leave that area alone, just so I don't have that, and I'm going to bring in some more details and attention to the bottom area of his face. And what time is it? It's 2 o'clock. Okay, so, and then of course the poly painting stage that I'm going to be doing here in a second will also probably help because I can bury and add. And this is something that Greg Poonchance would actually know what I'm talking about. I do the way that a lot of the traditional artists do it, where I build up on layers into my forms. I'm not a very good painter. I don't like color. I fight with it all the time. But by the process I've been doing it here, more of the traditional way of just looking and letting the colors blend, it's really kind of helped me with my designs. So, and if you guys are not strong in an area, you know, don't fight it. Just go ahead and, like, if hands are your bane of your existence, do 1,000 of hands. Just do hands up until you're about to throw up. There's no way of getting around it. At some point in time, you know, people are going to see, okay, this person's avoiding this section because that's just what they're not good at. And as a professional, or, you know, different, you know, if I was not very good at doing eyes in my creatures or whatever, and a movie project says we want to make an eye creature, well, I've already lost that job. You know what I mean? They're not going to be looking at me for it. So your weaknesses will show up in your work. So try to battle against it and just, you know, continue at it. So I've been saying that, but I'm actually trying to listen to my preach of that by doing poly painting a lot more. So I'm just using that ear, even though that was a human ear, I am kind of bringing in squiggles, bringing in a couple different, like, it's almost been like, I'm thinking like shriveled up, you know, bacon, you know, a lot of different forms that it has an ear aspect to it, but it's alien now because I'm kind of treating some of that skin differently than a normal ear would look. Less cartilage, more flesh. And okay, and who's to say he doesn't have 2 eardrums to bring in that alien? So okay, and I'm just using the Alt key to change the dam standard from negative to a positive. That's a lot of the brushes, so be aware of that. You can actually change the brush's function by doing that, for those of you that are kind of new. Also, if you guys have any kind of questions about any of the brushes, ZBrush has a great thing where you can actually hold down Control and it will give you a breakdown of its history, of what it's about. It's a quick library function within ZBrush and everything. So what is this brush? You know, some won't have it, some will. But if I hold over Sculptors, it's gonna, and I'm holding down Control, it's gonna give you the Sculptors Pro breakdown of what it does and what it's about. So that's phenomenal. That's the only program, I haven't seen that in any other program. I love it. And there's times you're like, okay, what does this do again? Okay, Control, there we go. So I'm gonna break up and bring in some solid, flat areas. This is also anything in flesh design. You need to have some sharp aspects to kind of really, you know, unless it's a blob monster. So, thanks, pre-drag. Yeah, it's like it's getting there. And that's the one thing I need to pay attention here. I need to kind of continue making sure that the back kind of works. Once I figure out this, I'll do that. Do you have a dam standard for all the wrinkles? Yes, I use dam standard quite a bit. He came up with the dam standard too. I have a tendency not to use that one as much, just because I've gotten used to this one. But I do have different brushes that I'll jump, but usually I'm standard, move, trim dynamic, pinch, clay, in flat, dam standard, and then I'll sometimes add a few others on top. But yeah, I keep these brushes very basic because I want people watching to realize that it's not the brush, it's not the tool, it's not any kind of specific, if I show you this, you're going to do exactly this. It's you. It's you as the artist that have to sit there and make something of it. So no, I mean, brushes can help make some of the process easier for you, but it's not going to make you the artist by just the brush. There is no one brush to instant, because a lot of the people that take the time, I mean, it's constant work. That's all I gotta say. So, all right, I'm just continuing with that neck, and I'm just leading the eye down and around, just adding some heavy folds. This is dam standard, just kind of crisscrossing, just to kind of makes kind of like more of a chicken neck. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go up to the areas here. I'm going to start adding a little bit more flesh. I want to use this as a hard shell. I don't want this to be like bone like I've done in other characters. I'm just going to go ahead and just use this to blend in some of the skin. So right now I'm just going in there using some of what I had from that teeth, and then I'm just going to kind of bring in some of those folds. Some weight. So I'm using the in-flat brush to kind of add some of that weight around somewhere where it's been brought in. Okay. So let's go back to that eye section here. It could just be that I need to have a little bit more flat rest on that eyebrow. Sorry guys. And I'm going to kind of bring in just some kind of weird fleshy design, because I'm trying to give almost like a secondary eye to kind of, you know, echo this. So I'm trying to kind of do this shape around this to kind of balance a little bit. So yeah, that's Jax. If you sneeze or you do anything else, he's like the sneeze police or the noise police. So I'm just going to kind of bring in some weird, whimsical skin details. Again, since I'm dealing with aliens, I'm kind of, you know, this is where maybe you see some of the veinage, you know, some of the stretching the lines. This is, even though I have that resting area, I can still bring in just a little bit of some of that flow in the detail to change his expression. Eyebrows are expression. Sorry, he's a cat, part cat. So what that does is just kind of really is now breaking that up to where it's working a little bit better. And I'm going to kind of probably flatten out this little section as well. And I'm going to change the way that upper eyelid, like let's do like a double eyelid. So maybe he, you know, bring in some of that insect where he kind of has a couple different flaps that will, you know, close. What do you call it? Like lizards or frogs where they had the double eyelids or whatever kind of. All right, so I'm going to use some of this. Okay. And this is where color is going to kind of come in. I can actually probably showcase. Yeah, he's not a good boy right now. Have kind of like a double eyelid section is going to be helped by the color, because then I can sit there and say that, yeah, this is the inner pink or this is the red, and whatever color I decide to make this character. Skin is going to be the outside. So, okay. Does that make sense, everybody? Now I'm at 3 million right now. There's a lot of stuff that I pushed and pulled. This is where, you know, me ZBrushing and doing the detail will really clean that up. I'm not going to go through that whole process. This is just an exploratory. I'm not as concerned about what his final look is going to be. If I like the character, then I'll go ahead and I'll do what I was doing with the heads, and I'll clean them up a little bit, make prints out of them, and go from there. So now I'm bringing in a little bit of bone. Sort of like the ear, kind of like some of this little sizzled bacon flesh tone detail to it. And then that way, that is kind of helping me define this eye section a little bit. And let's pull that eye back in just. So I'm burying it just a little bit. Okay. Now, I think it's just, no, it's the balance. I need to kind of change. If I move right now, I'm pulling everything with it. So if I want to keep those eyes where they are, a lot of times I'll just do the masking. I'll mask out that section that I want to kind of keep pretty static. You can also hold down Control and then click on it, and that will blend. That way then I can kind of go up on my layers, and if I want to bring that layer down over top, or more of a brow over top to where I'm making him angrier, or pull this out a little bit to where he's just more curious in the shape, which is I think kind of the direction I want to go. That way I can kind of pull that up and change in that direction. And I'm using the in-flat brush to kind of thicken and weight some of this. So that protects a lot of that detail I have in there. Okay. So right now there's just a lot of lumpiness kind of going on, so I need to rest the eye a little bit more. I need to reduce some of that detail so I can have it kind of focus. Like I need to, this line right here is line, line, line. I need to take out one of those lines, so I'm going to go ahead and just reduce it off of this one, and I'm going to blend where that muscle kind of goes in. So that way I start to see a lot less of the line. And I might still even take it down to where, let's see how that looks. I'm just doing undo just to get back to somewhere I had. Okay. There we go. Okay. So what that does is that just allows me to kind of bring out some of that direction. As I'm going in my design, I'm leading your whole eye down while having some things that will splinter off into different directions. So bracket size are the ones that default. Draw size, you just hit S and then you can use that. That's a quicker way. You can do brackets, but for me to do my brackets, I have to lift my hand off and move all the way to the side of the keyboard. A lot of my hotkeys are on the one side of the board. So my hand is, just like if you're playing a video game, if you have you're in a video game and you have your forward, backwards, left and right all over the keyboard, you're dead. You'll be shot before you make a move. So you want to make sure you have everything pretty close that your fingers can just talk and move really quickly. At least that's how I do it. Not saying I'll defeat you in a game, but that works. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna play with some more of the shapes of the head. Still not quite there. I think I might have to bring this up, make this a little bit larger. I brought out this detail, this sack, just to sit there and, now let me go ahead and fill out those horns. Okay, I'm playing with the shapes just to kind of see what I like. It's still kind of bothering me. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of times that you're going to go back and forth and see what kind of works. So now that I have that, let me go ahead and concentrate on some of the back. All right. And I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. Okay. I'm just going to damage it up and add some of the, let's add some spikes. Now, that spike that I brought, if I want to, again, make this a little bit more vicious, then that's where teeth, sharp objects come into it. So if I like the way this is looking, but I want to kind of sit there and go back to some of my standard, some of the brushes. I have like this little horn. Like I said, if I just do a couple, the VDM, as you see right here, this, if I look into my wire, see how stretched and nasty this has gotten? That's because of me playing with it. So my VDM brush is going to be very unsuccessful. It will work in different areas that are okay, no, it looks like it's gotten screwed up. That's weird. Alright, something's gotten broken. It was working, that one. Let's go to that, the VDM I created. Nope. Alright, let's not mess around with it. It looks like it might kind of crash on me. So, that's weird. So if I was having problems in like ZBrush, what I would probably do right now is I would just save, which I just did, and then I would go ahead and reload it. Just to see if it's something on the, you know, just ZBrush got kind of confused. I messed something up or whatever. So let's try it on here. I'm on a different object. That actually is pretty good. Let's try the VDM brushes on this one. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see right there, it seems to work on this one for some reason. Something along the lines of this. It could be the fact that, let's do this. Let's see what this is. So I'm on here. Let's go ahead and just create a new layer. Okay, nope. Let's go ahead and bake all. Nope. Okay, this has gotten lost. Okay. So for whatever reason, it just doesn't like that. So it probably is just so messed up, and it's just having problems with the VDM brushes on that. So if I decide to bring in the VDM brushes on the teeth, it seems to work fine for here. So, you know, as you see right there, when it kind of intermixes or it has some problems, things get messy. Of course, when you add horns or add stuff, it becomes kind of more demon, more vicious, you know. Now he's got kind of like a cactus testy balls or whatever. You can make up whatever you want. It gives you different ideas. If I want to make this kind of more like a crown, you know, type thing, I can use those teeth again to kind of make it more like their type of horns, you know, and then I can make double horns, and then it becomes a different type of creature. So again, it's just be aware of playing with certain things. Don't just give up or do one. Make copies. If I you know, want to play with this one and make it kind of skinned, you know, I could just go ahead and save a couple different copies of this. I'm trying to do inflate. You could also go ahead and use, remember, alphas. So if I have alphas and if I want to just kind of do some weird cuts into this, you know, make it a little bit brain sacky, dry, blend it out. That allows me to kind of give some detail into it pretty quickly. You know, if I want to bring in the veins or there it is. If I want to do some brains, that gives me that fairly quickly. Change the intensity if it's too much. Go ahead and just, you know, allows me to kind of make it a little bit more crackly, however you want to deal with it, you know, or super large. I personally, I like to have control, so I'd rather just kind of, you know, draw out, change my intensity back up, you know, make it up. Sorry. So if I was going to kind of give it some veinage, and if you want to erase, just go back down to the different levels, and I'm just scratching up some variations quickly that way. Okay. Any questions? So it's 2:21. Let's go ahead and just start to PolyPaint really quickly. Okay, so PolyPainting. I've gone over this quite a few times. Let's go ahead and just do this one really quickly. Alpha, I like to pretty much start with, like, you know, a general smooth alpha like this. You want to do color, and let's go ahead and switch to ZBrush Illustrate Paint. That's personally what I like. Start a little bit dark. We're going to go to like a more blood. We're just going to make it towards where this color. We're going to go RGB, and we're going to take the intensity down, and we're just going to say color fill object. Okay, we're not doing 100%, and I'm going to start about there, and then you can quickly just start pushing and pulling on some of the different colors. I would probably suggest, you know, changing up a little bit of the different colors, make it a little bit more purple. And then if you want to bring in any kind of alpha change to where it's like more spots, kind of like pink spots or however you want to do it, that will change up the look. Or you want to do stripes. And you want to kind of be on the higher level because then you can get all that detail. Okay. Some veinage. It's almost kind of like a kidney type thing. Did someone try to create an alpha in Substance Designer? Well, I'm sure a lot of people did alphas in Substance Designers. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to kind of create those. It's really up to... I've never messed with it. So, okay. Now I'm trying to find the base color. He's alien. I can go the typical green. I can go towards the blue. I'm going to probably go to a little bit darker bluish purple. This is where you can really change the feel. Like if I want to do more green alien or like more yellow, all those base colors you're kind of going to, it's going to really help. I've not really done a full purple alien. So let me go ahead and do this one. Color. I'm just going to fill the object a little bit. Make sure I'm on. Okay. He is starting to buck. He's not like a color fill object's not working. So sometimes when that happens, you have to go ahead and just paint. Something's gotten lost on this piece when I've been pushing and pulling. It's starting to, that's why I think the BDM brush was not working. You can hit solo, just make sure you carry and grab everything. And I'm going to go pick up my little one here pretty soon, so I can't keep continuing too much longer. So now that I have this, I can either stick with the colors. I'm going to switch back over, and I'm going to grab some of that color just because I want to go ahead and bring up some of that coloration into the side of where, because of course wherever that's going to register, then, you know, I want to bring in some of that color. Definitely probably around the eye section here. Hey Mito, welcome. Appreciate you dropping in. Bone Buddy, always great to have reference. I mean, I cannot suggest that enough, because you'll never stop learning about anatomy and everything else. I'm just going off the references of some of my, you know, like I know some anatomy. I'm making an alien, so I'm a little bit less concerned with being exact to, but if I was doing a human, of course, I'm going to be looking at tons of reference. So bring in, if you're trying to create a creature, you're trying to create some different things, you're trying to have fun, I would normally, pick some of the different things. Like if I'm going to take a praying mantis with a seal with a gorilla and just try to intermix, or like an antelope, and then you could actually try it in Photoshop. You could probably piece those together and blend out different things to where you have more of like the horns or the eyes of the antelope and some of the praying mantis mouth with a gorilla form. You know what I mean? You could start playing with that, but you're studying reference. You're looking at reference. There's different. You make up a lot of different stuff. Nature has a lot of weird crap, so trying to utilize that into your design. Who knows? So now I'm using C to grab back that color. I'm going to go ahead and just make these eyes a different material entirely. So what I did is I just went to material. I'm on my eye section right here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab just like some kind of silver reflecting material. And I'm going to turn off RGB and I'm going to go to material. That's the material command, and I'm just going to say color and then fill object. Okay, so my little dial there moved. I'm going to go back to RGB, and when I click off the material that I want, you'll notice that that material stays. Okay, and then right now I'm just going to go and click off that alpha, that layer, by holding down Alt and then just clicking on that new layer. That way that material is stuck. If I continue to stay in material, then I'll be painting the material of the ZBrush Illustrator. Or if I did material plus RGB, I'm intermixing materials and color. So I'm going to pick this color and I'm going to kind of come up a little bit, and I'm using it to bring in some of the different, trying to pick out some of the highlights of the areas that I want to bring out to light, such as cheekbones. So I was using that lower, darker color to highlight the depth, while the lighter colors will start coming out to the forms of where the highlights are going to be. So, and then this I could actually use it to maybe bring in some of the design. And he does kind of feel like an antelope type alien. It's got kind of like some weird feel to him. So the color, I might bring in some brown a little bit. And I definitely want to show that this is skin surrounding. And I'm using the drag along with that alpha just because it blends a little bit easier for me. It brings out some of that control. And I'm just dabbing. A lot of times I'm just kind of quickly just using my brush to kind of pull out and blend with the color underneath. Okay. So since this is a little bit down, I'm going to probably avoid that one. Pick up some of the highlights here, like this little section. And this one right here. And since this is kind of, I'm going to probably leave this a little bit blended so it looks like this skin is really translucent because it's thin, right? So I'm bringing in the color. I'm leaving some of that color from the brain testy piece or whatever to the skin, and by having those two blend together it looks a little bit thinner. Then I can solidify some of this little area right here to make that's a thicker skin. So that's where the true skin's kind of coming in, and the rest is kind of a little bit more thinner. So I'm faking it out pretty much. Little tricks. So this right here, since that's thinner, I might actually come back and bring in a little bit more of the red, which I can just grab here and then kind of blend in a little bit underneath. You get what I'm talking about? So there's a little bit of that translucency, that thinness of the skin coming through. Pick up this again. It's a little bit more solid purple so that it blends into the flesh. So I'm separating layers, separating what the character is about, telling that story. Okay. Any questions? Sorry, guys. I didn't want to bail on everyone. I'm going to be doing these every other week. Another artist decided to try on Fridays, so he's going to be sharing my time. that I usually do this. So you're going to see me every other Fridays, and I'll continue. If you have any kind of questions or things that you want to see, just go ahead and drop me a line at my emails. I always love hearing from you. And then you could just kind of, we can, you know, if you're bored of seeing this, somebody wanted to see more of the development of the full character. That's why I took some of those episodes to do the full character. I will not do pretty things. Don't care what you ask me. Unless you pay me. But no. But if there's certain things that you're curious about or you're having questions that you're not finding, you know, please just drop me a line and I'll try to help where I can. Hey Ruth, welcome. Welcome. Bone, actually I studied at Ringling School of Art and Design, and then I went to Disney, and then I got into the game industry. But I've been, you know, I pretty much taught myself. When I was younger, I just drew a lot from nature. Studied, you know, was even debating about being a wildlife artist, and then I got into illustration, and that's what I did for Ringling. I was a illustration major, and then I got into Disney, and then I was like, I'll like games, and that's how I got into the game industry. So right now I do game work and some film work when I'm able. It's a little bit more difficult because I'm in Texas. So and that's why I kind of do these things, the monsters and stuff, because a lot of times when I'm doing games, it's a little bit less of me designing. And that's where I kind of do this for fun, to kind of come up with creatures or things I like. Okay. I'm going to switch back over to my dam standard, and I'm going to define out some of this area a little bit. I'm not liking the way that's looking. Now, if I was worried about my poly painting, I could just easily turn that off, and I won't mess with the poly paint. But if I smooth out my ZBrush detail, my sculpting detail, it's going to smooth out that little poly painting detail. I'm not really worried about it too much, but I'm just adding a little bit more form into the back. I'm going to use my inflate brush to kind of thicken up some of that top skin. And go down the layers and blend that out a little bit more. Okay. So I'm just trying to create like a little separate skin section to kind of help me with the story that I'm trying to create in the color. Okay. Okay, let's see. And this will be kind of like a separation of flesh. Smooth out that line. Okay, so let's go ahead and detail them sort of the eyes. Oops, no need to do that. I'm going to go back into my brush. I'm going to grab that color and go up a little bit higher. So the great thing about nowadays is you have okay, my keyboard port. Wow. Something's happening. Okay, let me go ahead and save and restart ZBrush. Something just gave up. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see. Nope. Huh. Well, something's happened with my computer. So are you guys all there? All right. I think it's totally screwed up, guys. I think I crashed. All right, can you guys hear me? Okay. My computer is goofing up, so it's totally messing up on me, guys. So I think we're gonna call it a day. I will try to post that, and I'm not too sure what's going on. So as you can see right there, my desktop, I have my icons that are flickering back and forth. So yeah, Russian invasion. So I think yeah, that's weird. That is really weird. Yeah, it's flickering all over the place. Like my screen's just kind of going. It's the alien. So cancel. Okay, yeah. So I tell you what, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just call it, and I'll see you guys next couple of weeks, whatever. Drop me a line if you can. Let me know what's going on, and thank you for showing up. So I will try to figure this out. I probably just have to do a restart, but if I restart, I'm going to lose you guys anyway. So, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll try to finish up. Or I tell you what, let me try to go ahead and restart, and I'll come back in, and so keep a look at it and see if that kind of works. This is weird. Or if anybody has an idea why it's happening, that'd be great. So, all right, let me try it back on. I'll go ahead and close down and come back up and see if anybody's there. I'll try to finish it. All right, I'll see you in a few.